Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The New World. And in today's video, we talk about the disappointing sophomore year from last year's Rookie of the Year, CJ Stroud, and Houston Texans playoff hopes as the 2024-25 regular season comes to a conclusion. But before we discuss, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't, as we are on the road to 10K subs. Turn on those notifications and stay tuned for more of our videos on the way. And comment how you feel CJ Stroud's sophomore season went this year. Now, Mal, starting with you. After a disappointing sophomore season from last year's Rookie of the Year, CJ Stroud, what are your thoughts on his season this year? And do you see the Texans being bounced out of the wild card?
I'll answer the second question first. I definitely think that the likelihood of the Texans being bounced out of the wild card is very high. They just have not been very impressive at all this season. They pretty much have won the division by default. Just because of how putrid and pathetic teams that we thought were going to have high expectations. I know, and I'm not going to beat them up about it because I had a bad Super Bowl prediction as well, but some people on the channel did have Jacksonville Jaguars making it to the Super Bowl. It's not really faring that well, but yeah, that division is one of the worst in football, so the fact they won a division doesn't really mean shit. Also, the only way we can define the season for CJ Stroud is as a slump. If you just look at all of his statistical metrics, just everything is down this year. Last year, he had a passer rating of 100. This year, he has a passer rating of 86. Last year, he was 8th in passing yards. He was 6th in QB rating. He was 1st in interception percentage, 14th in passing yards, 22nd in completions percentage. This year, he's 11th in passing yards, 15th in passing touchdowns, 28th in completion percentage. He's tied for 4th in the league in interceptions. He's 24th in quarterback rating and QBR. He has the 3rd most poor throws on the season with a bad throw percentage of 18.7. Ladies and gentlemen, that's worse than Cooper Rush. That's worse than Jameis Winston. That's worse than Aaron Rodgers. That's worse than Mac Jones. And that's worse than Trevor Lawrence. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, the stats, they just don't really view CJ Stroud in a really good light at all. He's also 28th in on-target percentage. He just has not been good this year. And I will say this just to kind of, I don't want to beat up on him too much. He has been pressured the most of any quarterback this year, 174 times. So the offensive line's been terrible. They've been putrid. But he has not been good either. And I really want to put the focus on my current problem with a lot of discussions about players in all the sports. I'm really getting sick and tired of crowning niggas too early. I really can't stand it. I don't know when this video is going to come out, but we also made a video about NFC quarterbacks where we talked heavily about Jaden Daniels. I just don't like crowning these guys too early, especially off of one season of work. You got to put in time. When I look at guys like CJ Stroud and NBA Anthony Edwards, why are we so quick to anoint these guys? Like when they haven't done shit. Like, yeah, you put up good stats in your rookie year. Like, you know, I give you credit for that. You get Rookie of the Year for that. When we start putting people automatically in top 5 conversations, saying that they're going to be potentially in the MVP conversation, saying that this team can compete with Kansas City to make it to the Super Bowl, because that's what niggas was saying before the season. I'm really getting sick and tired of seeing all these niggas on podcasts. Like, I saw CJ Stroud talking about himself a lot in the podcast about, you know, I was a top 3 quarterback last year and just providing all of his input and insight on who's the best in the league. I'm like, dude, you're going into your 2nd year starting in the NFL. Bro, you haven't done enough for you to be talking the way that you're talking. We go back to a situation where the Texans played the Chicago Bears and, you know, Caleb Williams didn't have a good game. And CJ Stroud was trying to provide, you know, some level of insight and criticism on Caleb Williams' play, which is fine, which is warranted. But when Caleb Williams is clearly not interested in hearing anything you have to say, CJ Stroud is trying to basically little bro him and say, you know, come on, bro, like, who are you, CJ Stroud? You haven't put in any time. CJ Stroud talks like he's a 5-year, 10-year veteran, and he's not. And he's not. Because those same things, those same criticism that he had for Caleb Williams, we can apply those on you as well, sir. So that's really what I want to kind of get off my chest, because I've been seeing it the whole season. And when people were telling me that this guy was a top 5 quarterback before the season started, I was like, damn, already? Like, I really kind of want to see a little bit more, because we also don't talk about his talent surrounding him. Like, yes, guys were injured this year. Stephon Diggs going down with an injury. We see what has happened to Tank Dell. Like, we've seen what has happened to guys over the course of the season. I get that. I understand that. But as a quarterback, as a top 5 quarterback, you got to be able to make those throws that are there. Talk about on-target throws. You're 28th in on-target percentage. That means that you're missing the easy shit too. And one of my big question marks about CJ Stroud was like, can he go head to head with the top guns? Because last year, niggas were really focusing on his touchdown to interception ratio because he didn't have a lot of picks. and that's cool, but it also seemed like a guy that was playing it very, very safe. And so this year we see a very bad touchdown to interception ratio because he just turned the ball over a lot. And last has to do with his O-line. Buffy, Jay, and I were talking before this video, and we were talking about how you look at a guy like a Joe Burrow, whose O-line is ranked like 29th in the league, and he's still able to make every single throw. And he's had that for the majority of his career, a bad O-line, really all of his career. But we know with CJ Stroud, he has to have a lot more things in terms of all of these weapons, in terms of a good running game, because he has Joe Mixon and a great O-line. So he has to have a lot of things that work well for him to look great. And when we talk about you and compare you to other quarterbacks, that means that you have to go down a little bit. Because one thing we were talking to Jay about, Jay, remember the conversation with the NFC quarterbacks? If a quarterback has a lot more talent surrounding him, that means that he's probably not as good, because if we take that talent away, we're going to see those numbers go down. So we're seeing that with CJ Stroud. I know that we like CJ Stroud, and we want to commend him on quote unquote things that I don't really think exist when we talk about him, like leadership and or a whole bunch of other shit. Like, I don't think he has all that shit. He hasn't proven it. I need to see a whole lot fucking more before we start putting niggas in top 5 conversations. Let's take baby steps. Baby steps with CJ Stroud. So this year was an utter disappointment. I want to go back to all of those niggas before the season that had him, that said that he should be favored to win MVP. They said this team should be favored to beat Kansas City. They said that this guy was a top 5 quarterback. I'm keeping receipts. I need y'all niggas to come to the forefront right now.
Yeah, I'm not going to be one to kind of hang my hat on it, but I kind of been successful in predicting this CJ Stroud sophomore slump. I've kind of predicted it since the season started. I wasn't really on board with what many people were saying, that he was going to have an MVP caliber year coming into the season, which many people are backtracking now, but they were saying that coming into the season that, they were going to have explosive offense, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, who they received from Buffalo, and then Tank Dell, who unfortunately went out with a grueling injury. But many people were saying that, this offense is going to be high octane, CJ Stroud at the helm, they got Dalton Schultz, just got Joe Mixon, the line straight. Many people are telling me this is going to be, the main contender to beat Kansas City in the AFC. And it was just so blasphemous to me. Like, I remember making a poll on the channel, and I think it was like week 4 or week 3. And they won the poll. And I was like, wow. They won the poll over the Ravens or Bills, who I expected. But anyway, let's get back to CJ Stroud. I think CJ Stroud is at the helm for how he's kind of played. The brother hasn't really been that good. If I just look at him in the last couple games sample, and he wasn't really that good to start the season off, which I will say this, but compared to Bryce Young, just since week 8, 7 touchdowns, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud 5 touchdowns. Bryce Young got 3 turnovers. He got 7 turnovers. His passer rating is 79.9. Bryce Young is 83.5. So Bryce Young, who was getting heavily criticized coming into this season with his poor play in the first 2 weeks of the season, ended up getting benched. Came back from getting benched and has been playing better than CJ Stroud, who many people have told me should have won number 1. And I have no say in that matter. I'm not GMs, but CJ Stroud hasn't really been playing good. He hasn't really been great at recognizing, blitz coverages, the offensive line. And I will say this though, the offensive line has given up a lot of sacks, but CJ Stroud's at a point of his career where the amount of sacks you take, some of them is on you. You gotta get the ball out quicker, man. You gotta understand blitz pickups and, how to rush and scheming. You have to call this stuff out at the line of scrimmage, and he hasn't really been doing it. That's evident. The brother's been sacked, third most in the league? Over 50 times? Are you kidding me? So CJ Stroud's really been very, very disappointing. Throwing the football, that was a sack. That was his negative plays. Throwing the football. Interceptions. CJ Stroud had 5 interceptions, which I thought coming into the season, I was like, he got really, really fortunate last season, because last season, as Miles said, he had this high TD to interception ratio, and I was like, okay. That was 20-5. I was like, okay, that's pretty good. Many people were telling me, and himself, saying that he was top 3, saying that he was better than Joe Burrow, saying that he was better than Justin Herbert, saying that he was better than Josh Allen, saying he was better than all these guys. Many people were telling me this, and he has not backed it up. This dude has multiple interceptions, crazy interceptions. I don't even want to talk about him this season. Just watch the game against the Ravens. They scored 2 points, and they didn't even score the 2 points on offense. It was a safety. CJ Stroud generated no points against the 3rd best team in the AFC. No points. And many people are telling me he is that guy. Where is it? I don't see none of it. As Miles said, many people are really there to crown him early, and he really just did not deserve it. It really is just too fast, and I really don't want to criticize him for his play against the Ravens last year, because he was a rookie. But they lost that game too in kind of a second half where CJ Stroud really didn't do much. So you expected him to do much. He really didn't do that. So CJ Stroud really isn't that great player that, many people think he is. He was kind of teetering on top 5 combos. He's clearly out of that now, more so around like 15, 16 range. If I'm being pretty nice, he's kind of in that range. But yeah, the brother hasn't been playing well, and I think next season will be better because, he's going to get all these guys. He's going to get Diggs back, Nico Collins for a full year, I'm presuming. And, Tank Dell's probably going to miss till like 2027 or 6, one of those years. But Houston, we have a problem. We have a problem in it, and it starts with CJ Stroud, a.k.a. Pastor Stroud.
Yeah, man. CJ Stroud. Wow. Just a disappointing season. And I do want to come out and apologize because I did, speak highly of this man after his first season. I was saying he was teetering in that top 5 combo behind, those big 4, Lamar, Mahomes, Josh Allen. I was saying he was behind those guys, and I did expect not him to necessarily do the same things that he did his rookie season and do better, but I at least expected him to consistently better than what he's doing this season. Because what he's doing this season is very disappointing. 3,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and horrible QBR. And it's pretty disappointing. Even though they are in the playoffs and winning their division, their schedule, it hasn't been that good. They've lost against all the good teams. They beat the Bills, but the Bills, that was early in the season when that offense wasn't necessarily clicking. That's really how they got away with that dub. And plus their defense. Their defense is top 10 in the league. Stroud, he has been the second most sacked quarterback in the league behind Caleb Williams. And we know him and Caleb Williams have been brought up in a lot of the same conversations after he had that post-game conversation with Caleb Williams, who a lot of people have different outlooks on it. And I do think there were some things that CJ Stroud kind of, it was like, bro, what's going on? It's your second season. And yeah, question?
Were you saying that at the time?
No, at the time, I wasn't saying,
I got him.
at the time, I wasn't necessarily saying like, CJ Stroud, what are you doing? But I didn't necessarily just be like, CJ Stroud, this is kind of out of your jurisdiction.
So I have a question. Is it fair to say that at the time, we were very early into the season, but he had kind of built up a reputation of being a good quarterback.
At that time,
so he hasn't played well, and he is kind of some of those mistakes that he was telling Caleb Williams about. He's making those.
It's kind of it's like you look back at it, and it's like, what the hell were you talking about? Because it's like you literally doing the same things that you just told this rookie quarterback not to do. Like, y'all are literally kind of neck and neck in the different categories, like the most sacked and all that stuff. And then, I'm looking at that Ravens game. I was watching that Ravens game on Christmas, and I'm looking at some of his decision making. I'm like, dude, like his passes, when those guys were open, he was either overthrowing it or underthrowing it. If it was a contested catch, he would just somehow have it on the money. His decision making and his throwing was off, and his decision making this season has been, it's been off. We do know how bad that offensive line has been this year. They do rack up a lot of penalties. Was the tackle Larry Tunsil? That brother is garbage. Like, every time I look up and I watch a Texans game, I'm always seeing some type of penalty on him. Seeing that from like your veteran tackle is pretty disappointing. But that defense has kind of been, covering up the offensive struggles. They've been helping them out a lot. And Stroud does have Nico Collins out. He has Stephon Diggs out. But a lot of people, who actually sit down and pay attention, they were like, okay, he had his rookie season. But once, faces adversity, now we're seeing that, he's not composed and he's not built for those moments, because he's lost those games against the Ravens. He lost against the Chiefs. He's lost against Detroit. Like, he's lost against these big teams, the Packers. There's moments where it's like, kind of, what are you doing? And you look at that offense, and it's like, you look at all these guys on paper that he has, that offense should be rolling. They'll probably be most likely playing the Steelers, depending on how this game goes. If the Steelers lose, I think they'll most likely play the Chargers, but either way, they'll still lose to either team, because, this Texans team is just not prepared. D'Amico Ryans, he's been a great coach, but, that offense is just not clicking. And CJ Stroud has just been disappointing. And I kind of took into account when I'm looking at Jaden Daniels for his second season. Like, you look at Jaden Daniels, he's having a great rookie season this year. When he faces adversity his second season, is he going to actually, show up on time? Is he going to lead you? through the fire, or is he gonna drop? With CJ Stroud, it's definitely disappointing. You know, hopefully we get a bounce back season, but I do need to see a better season from CJ Stroud because the brother has the potential to be, a very solid quarterback for the years to come. He can be in that top 10 depending on how good he plays. But for right now, he's kind of like at that 15 to 18 spot. So we shall see, man.
Wow, motherfuckers go from top 5 entering the season to he got the potential to be top 10. Ladies and gentlemen, let that settle in for you. Let this be a lesson to you all. Let's not crown these motherfuckers too damn early.
Stop telling your secrets on Richard Sherman podcast, dude. What you mean? The palms, look. You ain't slick, brother. You ain't getting me. You ain't getting me.